you work the
I
technology?
think I can work the technology tonight. For the candidates tonight, you see our group. They come bearing lots of questions. We will do a 2-minute opening. Can you guys hear me back there?
Sure.
We'll be doing a 2-minute opening. Questions come up. We'll do a 1-minute answer for each question. We'll give you the little high sign for 15 seconds and time. If you're in the middle of mid-sentence and you see time, go ahead and complete the thought. Just don't ramble on another 4 minutes. We have a lot of questions from a lot of people, and if you're ready to go with this, we'll start with John Kidd. 2-minute opening. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much. I thought I'd probably be last, but I'm pretty well experienced. I work with Turlock. I work with San Francisco. I started when Don Pedro was first shut down, the new Don Pedro. And it was just a real great experience. My grandfather had a dairy on Prescott Road over here at 1902. And my father and his mother came to Modesto. It'll be 100 years next week. So if you want to talk about roots. So anyway, we'll move on to what we're doing right now, and we're going to look at selling some water. There are a lot of questions, and the details haven't even been set out. I haven't seen the details, and the details are going to really come down to what are we going to do in a year like 77. In 77, I took my 2 sons and my wife with me. We went up fishing at Don Pedro, and I said, hey, you guys, they were about 10 or 12. I said, tap that dam because we may never see it. Well, sure enough, we haven't seen it since 77. But in 77, we didn't have 1 drop of water to use for ourselves to finish the season. We just barely got through with TID and ourselves. In fact, we allowed TID to use some of our water, and it lowered the water level and past the old dam about 30 feet. And TID had to pay us for the water because we can't start generating until we get up to the level of the old dam. So I worked through that. They were asking us for extra water. I said, we don't have any extra water. It belongs to the public right here. We're going to use it. And so we let them draw theirs down. And in 78, we had a great year. It came back up. So I've done that. And we have our new generators over here on Woodland Avenue. That's the latest thing we've done. We have to have those for our wind power and our solar power because those can both shut off during the day, sometimes more than once a day. So we'll talk about that some more with questions, but we go from starting Don Pedro, where I helped out work on some of that, and I helped work on these new generators that are small units to fill in for wind and solar. So we'll talk to you later.
My name is Nick Blom. I also am running for the M.I.D. board, Division 5. A little bit about myself. Unlike John here, my dad came over from Europe in 1965. Started working at $50 in his hand, and that's what he started with. When I came along in 71, when the dam was built, we just kept farming. My brother and I, along with my dad, we've increased our ranch. We're farming over 1,200 acres now. When I started getting old enough, my kindergarten teacher asked me, would you like to be on the McKinney Museum Historical Society? I'm 19 years old. I thought, you know what, that's pretty good. So I did that. I helped out with that, and we actually improved the size of the museum that we had at that time. Actually worked the ranks up to president of that board. Got involved with Doctors Medical Center Foundation, which is the organization that takes care of a lot of different Lamaze classes, diabetes classes, things like that. Tough times. Times are tough. Everybody knows it. It's a nonprofit that's still striving. We're still doing good. Worked up to ranks as president of that board as well. Woodland Avenue Fire Department is the fire department district that I belong to. I'm not one of those guys that can handle blood and that kind of stuff. God bless the guys that can. But I figured, how can I help? How can I assist? So I got on the board of there. Also worked up to the ranks. I'm still currently the president of that board. They're one of the few fire departments that is still doing great. I mean, we have new equipment. It's a volunteer department. We have a $120,000 budget. We're doing great. Paradise School Board is a school that I went to, school that my kids go to. Also worked up, we're one of 2 schools in the county that are still in the black. It's that kind of leadership that I want to bring to the M.I.D. to make sure that they stay in the black. Thank you.
I'm John Duarte. I'm running for Division 1. So Larry and I are running against each other. Nick and John are running against each other, in case that was lost on anyone. There's 2 races going on here. My signs say passion, experience, and discipline at the top, and that describes me and why I'm running. And at the bottom they say protect our water and control costs. And those are my priorities in the district. My passion comes from the fact I'm a 4th generation Stanislaus County farmer. The nursery out there on Hatch Road is a property my great-grandfather bought, and we've been farming it ever since. My kids are the 5th generation. Got deep roots here in the county, both on my mom and dad's side. I came out of college in 1989. The nursery was just a tiny little bootstrapped operation. My dad did less than $500,000 in business that year. Since then, we've built it into a $30 million family-owned enterprise. I've got a degree in finance from San Diego State. I've got an MBA from UOP. I think that experience and that education are going to be a great asset to the Modesto Irrigation District Board. This district needs to be run a lot more like a business. Its debt load is shooting up, its pensions are underfunded, its costs of operating are too high, and the customer base, the kilowatt hours delivered each year, is waning, meaning that it's got to spread all of its overhead and all of its legacy costs over a smaller ratepayer base. The way through that is to grow the local economy and grow our customer base, and that means we need that water here in the county. If there's any year when we can't use all of that water here in the county to support our economic ag base, we need to make it available to other farmers in the valley so they can create jobs and they can grow our valley ag base. This is an issue that I've delivered a lot of leadership in, bringing it out in the forefront and making sure that everyone in this county has the opportunity to be heard and to stand up to what has basically been a behind-the-scenes secret deal. So I'm very happy to be here tonight. I'm very interested in talking to you about ideas for reforming spending. You can't talk about rates if you don't talk about costs. It doesn't make any sense. If you spend it, you're going to collect it from the ratepayer. Just like if I spend $1 in my nursery, I better collect it from the customer. So let's talk about protecting our water and controlling costs. I very much look forward to your questions tonight.
Good evening, and thank you for having me here this evening. I'm Larry Byrd. First of all, what was the question so I answer this correctly? You want to know about me?
Yeah.
That's what the question is. You want to know about Larry Byrd?
Yeah.
Okay. Larry Byrd, my family came here, my grandfather came here in the early 1930s because of the opportunity of quality and abundant water and cheap electricity. I was born in 1951 here in the old hospital that burned down on 9th Street, McFeeters. I've been here all my life. I was born and raised out on West Modesto where my parents farmed, and I took up the farming industry and the ranching industry ever since I was a young kid. I loved it. While I did that, my dad said, "Son, there's not enough room on this ranch or money to be made for the whole family. You need to get a job in town." So I went to work for M.I.D. I worked for Modesto Irrigation District for 35 years and retired 5.5 years ago. When I retired, I've been frequenting and only missed, I can't even tell you, hardly any board meetings since I've been going there. All their workshops on rate increases, all their workshops on budgets. I've been fully involved with the FERC relicensings of Don Pedro. If I haven't been to the meetings, I've been on the teleconference. So I'm fully engaged in M.I.D. with 40.5 years of experience. I started a cattle business with my wife when we first got married 43 years ago. I worked at M.I.D. She worked in the old Tilly Lewis on the cannery at night. While I watched the kids in the evening, she watched the kids during the day. We both worked. My friends were out water skiing and fishing and hunting. I was working the ranch because I wanted a little bit more to life than just that. I built one of the largest cattle industries in eastern Stanislaus County with my own 2 hands. My wife helping me. And I grow almonds also. And I know a little bit about finances. I'm debt free. We can go from there. My time is up.
Well, you know who we are. I would like to deviate a little bit from what Jeff requested, was going to request. What I'd like to take is maybe a couple minutes for each of you to tell us what your agenda as a director is going to be and what your vision is for M.I.D.
1 minute.
1 minute should be fine, and we'll start with you, Nick, because we're going to rotate.
Okay. M.I.D. has been one of those businesses or utilities that everybody wants to come to Modesto to get their low rates and good water. Larry said his family came to this area because of the good water and low rates. Everybody has seen their bills go up and up and up and up. And the thing that I find a little bit odd is you ask the question, okay, why does it keep going up? Well, they give you the green energy. They give you, well, you know, we've got other bills that, you know, inflation. That doesn't cut it for me. I need to know exactly why I have to pay double what I paid 10 years ago. You know, I mean, over the last 10 years, I think we've had 8 years with a 7% more increase. None of us mind paying more, but we want to know why we have to pay more. And I'm going to be out there and try to figure out to make sure that we don't have to pay more. I'd love to be the guy that says in 10 years, yeah, I was there when we started, no more rate increases. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
M.I.D. is out of control. The M.I.D. in the Modesto B interview, they asked us to give it a rating. I gave it a 2. On a scale of 1 to 5, I gave the district a 2 in terms of its management leadership right now. There's very little public transparency. They've been run by the management. I don't think we have as active a board as we should have there. I want to bring business discipline, and I want to bring transparency to the district. I want to run it like a business. I know what I can do for my employees at my company, and I don't believe M.I.D. should be having above market compensation packages for its employees. I don't think any government entity or any public entity should have above market compensation packages for their employees, and that includes medical, that includes pensions, that includes base pay. And if we can't renegotiate these union contracts to restructure pensions, then we need to freeze wages until we get in line with what the market is for those wages. We're driving away employers with high energy costs. We're losing opportunities for farmers by not making water available to farms as a priority. Nobody's going to come in and fix this community for us. We need to do it ourselves.
Well, I can tell you exactly how I feel about the agenda. My agenda is at M.I.D. First of all, we need to hang on to our water. That's our precious resource. When a company starts selling their assets, that's the beginning of the end. Number 2, our power rates have astronomically gone through the roof. I'm concerned about that because of people with fixed incomes and like the single mother of 3 that lives in the airport district. They can no longer pay their bill. I've been walking these precincts. I know. Their electricity is turned off. They don't have electricity. That's my concern. My concern is, and my agenda is, our budget is going to be $445 million. I think they can cut $100 million right off the top in capital improvements and go into a mode of just maintaining what we have, pay down our debt without raising rates. They cannot continue to raise rates. They're eating us alive. There's a way to do this. I have a plan. I only got to touch on it 1 minute. Do you have any questions afterwards? I'll tell you what my plan is. Thank you.
Thank you. Well,
Yeah, John left.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, John.
Anyway, glad to get my 1 minute in. We're one of the best districts anywhere in California and even larger areas. I was president of the Association of California Water Agencies that covers 90% of the water in California. We're a strong district. Our bankers would always like to have us pay a little more for our rates and jack up the reserves, but we have over 100 million in reserves, and we're going to let that ride, and we're going to hold the line on the 2 great snowpacks we've had. We're going to have a good year next year. just with the snowpack that we have an average this next year. And it's supposed to snow up in the next 2 or 3 days, so we'll start taking a look at that snowpack right on through. Last year, we lost about 10 days of 15 seconds. I can tell you about our fisheries. We lost about 10 days of generation because Fish and Game said, well, we're going to have a dry spring. This is what came from the state of California. A dry spring, so we've got to cut back on our generation. So we held off for the 10 days, started December 1st. We're still generating down the river. It's running right out the Golden Gate Bridge. We need more storage. We have to use our storage the best we can. My time's up, but I'll be glad to talk to any of you like I did today, friends, all day long. I'll do it again. Bye.
Experience the difference. Make Crow Trading Company your first stop.
Sweet new outfit, $200. Dinner and drinks, $80. Dancing and more drinks, $120. DUI, $3,500. Plus a couple days in jail. Getting home safe, priceless. This is Jeremy Crosbo, the downtown bar owner, reminding you guys not to drink and drive.
A public service announcement from ModestoNews.org.
My name is JP. I'm the founder of Trinity Networking Teams. TNT is a faith-friendly marketplace ministry, and currently we're meeting each Wednesday at a different business location on Wednesday at noon. The best way to get a hold of Trinity Networking Teams is through Facebook. We're on Facebook under Trinity Networking Teams. You can also reach us online at trinitynetworkingusa.com. You can also give us a call at 571-1990. We'll look forward to seeing you at our next TNT meeting.
I know 1 minute is really, really tight to get an answer in, but we've got a lot of questions, and we want to try to get as many questions in as possible, so I hope you guys understand.
It's all right.
First question. What do you feel about selling water to San Francisco?
Starting with John Duarte.
Starting with John Duarte.
No, I don't feel about it. I think about it. I think it's about the dumbest thing we could do, and I don't think there's difference among us here in the panel tonight. I've been speaking out against this very regularly and very intensely. Selling water to San Francisco funds congestion and development in San Francisco that creates more smog for them to push into our valley, impact our air quality, and leave us paying even bigger fines. Last year we paid $29 million in fines because their smog came into our valley and provided 25% of the overall air contaminants in our valley. Now we can also talk about the jobs we lose when we don't provide water to farmers. If we have water in this district to sell to San Francisco, where was that water 3 years ago when our farmers on the west side were in a drought? Where was it? Where's it going to come from? And so we've got a lot of needs for that water. Our groundwater aquifers are not being maintained sustainably. Our food processors want that clean surface water through our water treatment plant that we're building 33,000 acre feet of capacity in right now, so they can have that water for their food processing. That's 1 minute. I've got 20 more.
I'm definitely against M.I.D. selling our water, our precious resource. As I said earlier, when you start selling your assets, it's the beginning of the end. The big issue here, though, right now, their timing is way off. We're right in the middle of FERC relicensing of Don Pedro, as I said earlier. You guys know what that is, federal energy? Okay. You know what that is. I don't want to get into that because I'm going to lose time here. What happened is we're telling them, we're on this side of the table, 3 or 4 farmers. There's 2 or 3 of us here right now that we're there at every meeting, and we're fighting for our water to hold on to it. On the other side of the table is 6 attorneys and 11 environmental entities that want our water. All of a sudden we come out and say we have water to sell for the city of San Francisco when we've told them we don't have an extra drop. This is a double whammy, folks. we're in trouble. We woke up a sleeping giant. I fear of what's going to happen in the very near future.
John? John.
Okay.
Yeah, what do you feel about selling?
I already mentioned that in my first comment, but I can say it over again. But we had none in 77. We were down below the old dam. So where are we going to sell any when we have another year like 77? I think we'll probably have one. Don Pedro's been up and down. It ran over the surface one time in 97. And then I told you in 77, it was down below the old dam. So we've been working in between. If we have been able to spend, it takes an awful lot of effort. I've had worked for the staff since I've been on the board. It takes a lot of effort to stretch that water out and make it reach from year to year, because we had periods of time from 5 or 6 years where we had less than 100% snowpack. So we know how to handle that with our experience.
Thank you.
About selling water to San Francisco, as John stated earlier, I think we all feel that it's ridiculous. So, but having said that, I agree. We should not be selling water to San Francisco. It's not the right time because of the FERC licensing. But it's one of those things that, why is it even coming up? This is when the board should be directing the staff, saying, you know what, no, we're not going to do it, period. Forget about it. But it keeps coming up and up, coming up, coming up. And if you talk to the different staff members, they say, oh yeah, San Francisco asks us for water all the time, and other entities ask us for water all the time. Then direct the staff to talk to the other entities, the farmers from the west side, other farmers in the valley. But for the staff to come up and say, here's our plan to sell water to San Francisco, that means that the directorship hasn't told the staff or directed them in the direction they want them to go. And so that's where it's time for the board to be engaged with what's going on, make sure that these kind of things, because to me it's just a waste of time. We're going to all these hearings and doing these other things. We shouldn't even be dealing with this stuff.
Thank you.
Start with Larry.
Pardon me?
Start with Larry. No, I know you're marking that down too.
I'm trying to keep track. Yeah, it's a little confusing. I've never done this before. It's my first experience as well, gentlemen. So I'll try my best. But at any rate, M.I.D. recently settled for that Cogen plant that the EIR was not approved. What do you think, or what is the? Would you approve that settlement? I guess it was $1.2 million.
Well,
starting with you, Larry.
You've probably read my statement in the Modesto Bee. I can't hardly believe it. What happened? I mean, you don't write a check to somebody for $1.2 million for no reason. Something went south. And I have no way, I don't know what went on behind that room. I don't know what went on with the board and the attorneys. I wasn't there because you're not allowed to be there. I don't know what went behind that room. But when you're paying off $1.2 million to somebody because they didn't make the move or they didn't honor the contract, and I asked for the public records request on it, it said, in good faith. That might have been the boo-boo right there. In good faith. Something happened. I think our attorney, I'm speculating, dropped the ball on us. I think that a legal staff should be able to have us covered when we're not paying somebody $1.2 million because we didn't do their project.
John?
I had questions on that from the people who wanted to put in that burn plant. I told them about the Tri-Valley plant that failed. It not only failed, there were people talking to us from Ceres about what's going to happen when that smokestack comes blowing off down towards Ceres. People from the airport were having problems. I told the people all the way along at every hearing we had that it was not a good project. And I voted to not give them one thin dime. But I was outvoted. So it was a 3-2. Cecil Hensley and I thought we owed them 0. And we told them right from the beginning it was a poor project. So that's about, what else can I say? We have a 5-member board. And sometimes it really helps to have 5. Sometimes you wish you only had 1 or 2.
Thank you.
Again, this is one of the things where the board should have been. And I like Larry, you don't know what was said behind closed doors beforehand. And And as he put it, it was in good faith. Who said what, and that's where it happened. Do I think they should have paid the $1.2 million? It should have never got to that point. When you negotiate these kind of things, you have to sit there and talk, and you have to figure out, okay, here's what they want to provide, and here's what we're going to do. M.I.D. was going to purchase the power. That's what they wanted to sell us, the power. Well, okay, to me, that's all right. Well, let's come to an agreement of how we want to do this, if it'll work. You have to make sure you come through with your side of the bargain, and then we'll come through with our side of the bargain. It shouldn't be a problem. All of a sudden, we got to pay $1.2 million because somebody didn't come to their part of the bargain. It doesn't make sense, and I don't think we'll ever really know exactly what happened. I think, as John said, he voted no for it. I think at the beginning, it was a no vote. Do I think, John and Cecil, maybe they should have tried to get one more board member to vote no with them? I don't know. Thank you.
Well, yeah, the best way to win in court is to stay out of court. And obviously, there was a disconnect. I think having an active, engaged group of directors at M.I.D. that can look at these business deals right up front and understand what their principled positions are going to be on those deals before they develop too far down the road and say, hey, we're not going to do this because you're in the wrong location. It's not going to happen. Don't do a secret document. Don't go get financing. Don't go get investors. Don't go make a land lease. Don't go down the road on this because, in principle, we don't like it. An example of that was in the last board meeting. Some business guys with neckties came up and presented an algae project to the district where they wanted the district to put up $7.5 million for an algae fermenter that was going to take the NOx and the carbon dioxide out of the woodland plants and turn it into fertilizer. And on just a few questions, you could tell these guys wanted the M.I.D. to fund their research. They didn't even have a working plant already in activity. So it was like, right there as a director with a business background and some common sense, you'd say, don't even do a secret document. This is a no-go for these reasons. That's where the district fell down. Settling the thing at the end is probably a good move once you've screwed up. Don't let it drag out.
It appears to me that the staff goes about it the wrong way. They do all these negotiations behind closed doors, and they bring it to the board of directors. Will you attempt to change that? And we'll start with John Kidd.
Did you get Larry on that last one? I guess he did.
Yeah, I was the first one, John.
Yeah, well, we have a working relationship, and I've been on several boards there at the M.I.D., and we all do different methods in our own businesses, in our own interests, in our own work. And so you're always balancing the 5 people, and we have a good attorney. We're working with him, and we use his experience, and we use his estimates. One of the problems, I want to be fair to the rest of the board members, one of the problems is when you get things in front of a jury, sometimes some things happen that just don't seem to fit the solution. And so that's one of the things that you're going to run into. But we've had the state of California charging us. They come down and do dam inspection, for example, and then they say, here's the bill for our dam inspection. They require the inspection. We do some of that ourselves, but they require the inspection, and then they charge us for it. And that's happened on our low-income people. We spend about $8 million a year for low-income assistance. Some of it's very worthwhile, some of it isn't.
Obviously, things need to change. We've heard just a few other comments today, and the staff is kind of running the show out there. And things need to change. We need to start asking the staff, giving them direction, what we want to see. I've talked to a few of the linemen, the grunt workers, and you ask them, okay, how many times do you actually get to talk to a board member to just sit down and talk to them and discuss what's going on? Not expecting an answer to many questions, but just to kind of talk. I haven't found one yet that's talked to one in the last 5 years. That's wrong. You should be able to, to me, I should be able to drive down the road, see a crew working, stop, say, hey guys, what's going on? How's it going? What do you think you need? And then from there work on with staff and say, hey, why aren't we getting this for our guys? Why aren't we doing this for the guys? And if there's a good reason, great. If not, let's get it for them. Let's try to figure out how we can get this for them. But The way it is now, it's not working. The staff is directing the directors.
Yes, sir.
Well, the question was, so we all remember, is this, from what I understand, the staff is bringing the directors a fully cooked chicken, saying, here's dinner.
Correct.
And the directors need to get involved in developing the proposals that we're going to vote on. Now, this San Francisco water sale is a perfect example. Why are we voting on one particular sale on a permanent basis to one particular customer? If we have a way to characterize our available resources for sale, if we have a whole plethora of people who want to buy that resource, and different types of commitments for long-term, short-term, different prices, we get the hydroelectric, we don't get the hydroelectric out of it, why aren't we able to weigh that as a community with a transparent process rather than having 4 public meetings on one potential customer, one potential sale that's permanent? Don't even think 50, 60 years. It's permanent. No, we need to be involved as a community and as a board of directors in developing these ideas before there's a specific proposal that we're faced to vote up or down on.
35 years at M.I.D. and retired 5.5 years ago. So the upper staff, the top 7 AGMs and general manager are basically the same. There was a couple of changes. There was a couple of changes because they wanted them to join the good guy club. They have their own agenda. That's a fact. Our staff is a little scary upstairs. I'm going to put the cards on the table here, and I don't like it. But this is what's going on. Staff is selling the board a bill of goods. Our staff is not being honest with the board. They're absolutely lying to our board on a lot of occasions. I've been at the board meetings, I'm watching it, I'm seeing it, and I'm not liking it. Number 2, have you guys heard of the SERPA rule? Have you guys heard of the SERPA rule? They have that in M.I.D. That's where employees or upper staff is not allowed to talk to John Kidd or Cecil Hensley or Tom Van Groningen. They're not allowed to talk to them. They have to do it with the general manager's blessing. That's how they operate there. So guess what? They're handcuffed. It's a little scary, you guys. I didn't mean to make it that scary for you, but that's a fact of life. That's what's going on, and that's going to be part of the changes if I'm elected to the board, and that's a promise.
To Genesis 1. I am Joe Williams with my wife Michelle, and we have a little hair salon, a gift shop, and counseling center, actually, all rolled into one.
Experience the difference. Make Crow Trading Company your first stop.
You like to party, right? All of us like to party, but you just got to remember, at the end of the night, are you going to be the responsible one, or are you going to be the dead one? This is Jay Smith reminding you not to drink and drive. I know it's tempting. You go out and have a few drinks with your friends, wrap your car around a telephone pole, your best friend's dead, over the dashboard. Yeah, real cool, guys. Don't drink and drive. I'm Jay Smith. Google that.
A public service announcement from ModestoNews.org.
Well, considering that what I see personally, and I've seen this in a lot of different organizations, and you see the city of Bell, where the people, they make their own rules, they pay themselves $800,000 a year. Now, with the Cogen situation, and certainly I think with the sale of the water, looks like everything's done in the back door, and somebody's responsible for that $1.2 million. My question is, in the future, if there's any of this shenanigans going on, will you search that person out and either, I guess, reprimand them, degrade them or fire them. And
Nick.
John,
I think I'm up, right?
yes.
Well, when you spend $1.2 million because we didn't make a mistake, somebody made a mistake. And whoever that someone or those people are, something needs to be done, and they need to be either reprimanded, fired, whatever it takes. I mean, we all know we all make mistakes, but if you make a deliberate mistake, knowing you made that mistake, then you should be gone. Other times, the water treatment plant, they put the wrong people in charge of that, and those people are making mistakes. When you have to rebuild the second structure, that's a mistake, and somebody has to. I mean, somebody's head has to roll on that. You can't have these over $1 million mistakes and just leave everybody hunky-dory the way it is. And that's where it's time for the board to be engaged, ask the questions, and you know what? We're all adults. Step up. You made the mistake, explain why, or you're out.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've got 4 kids at home, a wife that would like me to help her with them once in a while, a business to run, and lots to do. I'm not doing this to be part of a club. I'm not doing this to eat the shrimp and have fancy dinners with Alan Short. I'm doing this to create change because I remember my grandfather and his pride in the canal that ran outside of the nursery there along Hatch Road in TID, his sister district. My other grandfather farmed in M.I.D., and we had the best thing going in terms of water. We had low rates, and these districts were a source of immense pride in our community. And they're not being run properly, and it's threatening our community, and it's threatening the sovereignty of the districts. If we keep abusing these districts and their finances to a point where we have to sell the water to the big city to cover our financial butts, and this water is being sold because of pensions, it's being sold because of infrastructure, it's being sold for many reasons. Financial failures. I'm there to get some change done. I'm there to make change, and I'm not there to make friends.
Thank you. Larry?
The question is? Because I think we got off base here with the answers, so I want to know the question again.
Well, considering that obviously someone made a mistake in causing the $1.2 million give up, somebody made a huge error, so there should be somebody either reprimanded or fired. What would you do in the future?
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to ask the tough questions. I'm not going to dilly-dally around in there. I'm not going in there to make friends. I'm going in there for my community. I'm going in there for you, the ratepayer. I'm not going to play around with these guys. I want to get to the bottom of it. $1.2 million, it took me a lifetime to get to that point where I have those kind of assets. That's a lot of dough. I'm not going to mess around with these guys. We're going to get in there and get to the bottom of it. I want to know exactly what happened there, and I'm not getting the answer. I told you earlier, I asked for the public records request. It's all blah, 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 blah. There's only 2 words on there that stuck out, and it was good faith, and that's where we got stuck. Right there, because apparently we didn't deal in good faith. I'm saying the attorney should be held responsible. That's an attorney deal. Come on, you guys, really think about that. When you hire somebody to do a contract, you have an attorney oversee this contract, so you make sure that we don't get egg in our face. I do it. I do it on the ranch. I do it with my leases. I do it with everything I do. I have an attorney look over this material before I make the final say, and he better make the right decision, because we're paying this guy, especially our attorney at M.I.D., a bundle of dough.
Mr. Laughlin should be gone.
He should have been fired. Okay, John.
Don't forget, Larry has a brother who's an attorney, so he knows. I hope you guys had a fit like growing up.
John, I'm trying to win this election.
I want to ask a question myself. If we have a show of hands, how many of you went to some of the hearings on selling water to San Francisco? There's quite a few here. Well, this is a knowledgeable group. There are quite a few here that I saw at the hearings. I went to 3 of them. I didn't go out to water, but Cecil handled that one I know real well. It might have been a little smaller than some of the others. But anyway, we have a good board, and I'll just give you one that happened this week. We got calls, I got personal calls from several farmers, and they said, hey, our almonds aren't ready. We need some more water. So I phoned Cecil, and I said, Cecil, you and I have helped out the last 5 years holding water till Halloween so people had a chance to finish irrigating and weren't coming back January, February after we had 6 inches of rain saying they were short of water. So Cecil said, yeah, you're right. We need to hold on for another week. So I called the staff, and I know most of the staff people, and I like them real well. We get along pretty well. And the staff said, we just are going to have a meeting. Do you recommend a week? I said, let's leave the water running for 1 more week, then we can shut it off to do all our winter work and pour concrete, because we probably have more concrete than any district in Central California. So we did. We got that done. So we're going to irrigate until the 11th. So if anybody wants a shot of water before the 11th, call your dish tender.
Next question here comes from the group. What real authority does the board of directors have? And we start with John Duarte.
The biggest authority the directors have, the supervisors or city council anywhere, is hiring, firing top management. The top manager works for the board, and that top manager is there to report to the board. The board works for you. You hire and fire the board. When it comes to understanding and managing the district, you, as a director, I will expect to be able to ask questions throughout the operations of the district. I will expect to ask questions of the attorney. At the end of the day, execution of any policy that's set by the board needs to be done through the management chain. The board doesn't run the district. The general manager is there to run the district. The board is there to run the general manager and to have a general manager that works at its pleasure. So it's pretty simple. The more you understand as a board, as a director, the more questions you can ask, the more insight you bring in, the more you're willing to work at it and study it and resource to your wits, the better questions, the better handle you'll have on it. I think this top management of the district needs a lot of redirection and new habits.
The authority that the M.I.D. board has is setting policy and overseeing their general manager. The general manager works at the pleasure of the board. That's the wording in his job duty. You work at the pleasure of the board. So the board needs to, the authority of the board is to ask the tough questions. Ask that general manager the tough questions. I watch our general manager ramble on, and I don't want to specifically go after him here. I'm just using an example. And it's like, okay. And I'm thinking, I got 10 questions. I'm sitting in the audience. I've got a whole bunch of questions I'd like to ask him right now. Didn't happen. So that's where the board needs to be more involved, and that's their job. Ask those tough questions. Don't be afraid to, and have them put the cards on the table.
Alan sure leaves it around by the nose.
I got a letter from Hetch Hetchy about it was 9 years ago, and they said, we're inviting you as president of the M.I.D. board to come up to the San Francisco Solar Summit. And I say come up because you go up to the hills to get up there. So bring one guest with you if you'd like. So my guest was Alan Short, and he said sure, he'd like to go. We got on BART in Pleasanton, came right up under City Hall. That's when Jerry Brown, about 9 years ago, was focusing in on governor. And he talked and he said we need to quit sending all these panels for solar over to other India and China and wherever they send them. Need to have our union people do it right here. Well, that hasn't happened. And so the point is, I took Alan Short with me. We have breakfast about twice a month, and we go over details for the district. And we really get into the details and work hard for the benefit of the district. But up to that, San Francisco wanted to be the solar center for the United States, and they weren't able to do it because of the fog. And so I asked Alan last week, do you think solar's any better than when we went up to the summit? And he said no. And I talked to a man who came down at a neighbor's birthday party from Silicon Valley. He said, we don't have it developed any better than it was 9 years ago. So there's an example right there.
I presume you voted against the solar system that's going in and here?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Okay.
They have to produce. The reason I didn't, and pardon me for getting in, you better get them to start your time over. The reason I voted, they have to produce that solar power. It's a solar company, and they've been kind of slow getting that in. Well, we'll see how that shakes out. But we don't buy it unless they produce it.
Right.
The question was, what is the job of the board, basically?
Correct. What authority does the board have?
I think it was said pretty well that the authority of the board is to direct the staff what to do, and not the other way around. And it's time for the board to be engaged with the staff, so that when we do get, as John put it, an up-down vote, that it's what the board wants. And if it's not what the board wants, they get a no, and that's done. It's over with. And so the authority is for the board to lead the staff in the direction that it wants them to go, whether it be with the attorney, with the GM, to direct them and say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to do it.
My name is JP. I'm the founder of Trinity Networking Teams. TNT is a faith-friendly marketplace ministry, and currently we're meeting each Wednesday at a different business location on Wednesday at noon. The best way to get a hold of Trinity Networking Teams is through Facebook. We're on Facebook under Trinity Networking Teams. You can also reach us online at trinitynetworkingusa.com. You can also give us a call at 571-1990. We'll look forward to seeing you at our next TNT meeting.
You know what that sound was? That was the sound of a family's life changing. This is Bobby Hart from North American Wrestling, letting you know that I'm downtown in Modesto every weekend, and if I see you drinking and driving, I'm going to choke you out. So throw your keys to a friend and party safe, and that's words from the heart.
A public service announcement from ModestoNews.org.
Okay, 10 seconds.
Who's up?
That disqualifies me.
Oh, geez, we only have 5 seconds.
All right, Larry, you're up.
Okay, Larry's up.
Geez, I lost the question. But considering, a lot of us here are in business, and a lot of us are getting in our age, older age, and we've seen people, and we wonder why things don't work right. And you try to analyze it, you try to help the person, but it just doesn't work, so you have to fire them. So considering that M.I.D. is on the downhill stroke, and we know who's the head of the M.I.D., are you guys willing to be proactive, take a look at Alan Short's contract, and be proactive looking at maybe you need to fire him in 5 years?
30 seconds?
Yeah. 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
That's pretty strong language.
I like it.
Maybe reprimanded.
It's not probably a bad idea, but we have to take a really good look at Alan right now. There's no question. We're in trouble. We need to take a look at Alan and ask some tough questions. And I don't want to jump on that side until I can sit down with him personally and talk face to face.
Thank you. John?
I just heard last week
10 seconds. 10 seconds.
A friend of mine who's a school board member, he's running for city council. He said, I can't stand that school board. I can't stomach it. They're hitting the wall in July. Now, I don't know how many of you have heard that, but they say they're hitting the wall in July. M.I.D. had a great water year last year. Natural gas, we have a 100-year supply of natural gas, and look and see how many natural gas generators we have. They're very valuable, and I'm out of time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, as far as Alan Short goes, he said that he only wants a few more years as GM. And to me, when you start, and as Larry put it, we got to really look at it, because when you start talking about here's my end date, that's when you already start checking out. So we need to look at Alan closely.
Thank you.
Absolutely, the succession is coming. I don't want to see another $1, $2, or $3 million settlement on the district. Whatever we do, we need to do it right. But we do need change at M.I.D., and I think it's time, either through retirement or replacement, it's got to change.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. How would you go about meeting the state of California renewable requirements for electricity for, I guess it's a 2020 mandate?
John Code starts. 20 seconds. Or 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
We're already working on that. You notice, let's see, Senator Cannella from Ceres had a bill in. That thing got ripped to shreds. The Don Pedro provides 70 megawatts to the M.I.D. None of that is green energy. It's all renewable. Come up with me to look at the snowpack, and I'll show you this winter.
Thank you.
Okay, the green energy side of it is ridiculous that the Don Pedro is not. When asked about, I asked a few of the staff members why they're not helping with Anthony Canella's. They said, well, it's not going to pass anyways. Come on. We got to fight for it. We got to fight for it. We get enough voices together, that's going to pass, and we're going to be allowed to use the Don Pedro as green energy. We've got to be fighting, and that's not happening. The staff said, well, you know, it's not going to pass. Why waste our time on it? No. Those are one of the things that we have to be fighting for.
Thank you. John?
We need to drag our feet. I think that M.I.D. ran out too fast and paid too much for solar energy. I looked at it from the nursery's perspective. TID was paying a lot less than M.I.D. a couple years ago. The incentives were too high. M.I.D. overbought. We've got waning usage, and we've got more green energy than we need. There's actually exclusions that allow some more additional flexibility for public utilities over privately owned utilities such as PG&E. I think we've bought too far in, too fast, and we need to back out. And we need not to get involved in long-term agreements that we can't back out of.
Thank you.
That's too late. That's too late. That already happened. M.I.D. already did that. They bought in too quick. They already did it. It's a done deal. We can't do anything about that. We can't offer you pie in the sky. We can't undo what they've already done. We're already under contract with SunPower. What we can do, though, to meet their mandates is to put a solar field in. If we have to do this, which we're going to have to by 2020, unless everything is overturned, up at LaGrange, above the fog, under our transmission line, and deliver and make this power for 6 cents a kilowatt. Not 17 cents a kilowatt, what they paid from SunPower.
This will be the last question, and then we'll give you guys a closing statement. And we are starting with Nick.
The California PUC is on record saying recently the utility will provide for the public to go back to analog meters if that is your choice. PG&E has begun removing smart meters due to the health effects. Smart meters recently represent a significant threat to health and citizens' constitutional rights to privacy. If elected, what will you do to ensure M.I.D. allows the citizens to return to analog meters and the removal of the smart meters?
1 minute. 1 minute.
That's fine. As far as the smart meters and the analog meters, the way that they used to work, we had one person run around and check your meters. I think it's one of those issues that, you know, it's one of those ones it's going to have to be made. It's a decision that has to be made. It's one that has to be made for the betterment of everyone, not just individuals. If you start having analog meters spread out throughout the entire county, now you've got to have a person running all over the place to read those meters. It's not going to work. And we have to make sure that it's cost effective. The health issues on the smart meters, it's still one of those, it's not right there yet. What we did find out is the smart meters, apparently they read a lot better than the analog meters.
Richard, that's not right.
Richer, yes. They appear to be reading a little higher. And I talked to a guy up in PG&E's district, and he told me that his meter doesn't work at all. So.
Who wants this money in the house?
John, go ahead.
I don't know what the purported health effects of smart meters are. I honestly, that's new to me. If we have a technology that lets us take meter men and not have them and save money in the district, then that's great. If we have a technology that's providing health risks or privacy risks to our customers, then we need to eliminate those issues. Now, I can't believe there's not a radio device that can transmit your power usage to the district correctly. And if there is one, and we can cut staff at the district and save costs, then we need to adopt it. If there are health and privacy risks to it that are offensive to some people, then we need to disable them in that way and go forward with the technology that saves money and doesn't bring those risks.
Well, you guys have heard this tonight. John and I agree almost on everything that we talk about. But this is one thing I don't agree with. Analog is the only way to go. That smart meter, they're smart all right, they've increased everybody's rates. I talked to a lady who went from 120 to 360. Now, how does that happen? No, I mean, that was one lady. I've talked to hundreds of people. I've bought 5,700 homes and talked to these people. Smart meters is a joke. And I'll tell you another thing. It cost the district a fortune to put those in. Plus, don't forget, this is the most important thing, it took away jobs. It took away jobs. Meter readers was a good thing. We had jobs. Now guess what? They're all out of work. Isn't that just great? And the smart meter cost, it's going to take them 20 years to pay for those smart meters. Isn't that great? I rest my case on that
one. Dave, when you asked me over here, I said, sure, I'll be there. I want to Remember? Yeah. Were you surprised that I showed up?
No. Maybe I should have defined forum.
I'll tell you where I start is right at home. My meter is doing a heck of a job. The meter reader hasn't come by once, and it's done a good job. I'm working outside a lot and don't sit around the house much, and mine is working fine. When we got that hot spell, it is sad, but I've heard from a lot of people their bill really went up. Well, they are accurately measured, most of them. And so one guy told me, well, it's all his fault. And I said, why? He said he has a freezer and 2 old refrigerators in his garage. And when we sent the couple, the young lady and the young kid out to check his place, he said, I was embarrassed, but I had those 3 in my garage that I shouldn't have. And so things like that happen, and we'll help check that out if you think your meter isn't reading correctly. Call down there or call me down to the board secretary. I'll help you.
They're a fair group can't even check the accuracy of them out on the field. You have to take them back to the office. You and I both know it.
Okay. All right.
Came out of the board meeting.
Thank you all for showing up. We extended the time by a few extras because we still got a stack of things, but we do have another speaker tonight. But we want to be able to give you guys all a 2-minute closing to the crowd, and we will start with John Duarte.
I've been a fiscal conservative for a long time. If any of you have been to Republican events or been active on who's on which side of the government game, I've been on the right side. I've been on the right side since I was 18, and I've been a fiscal conservative Republican since then. I run a business. If you want to complain about smart meters because they're inaccurate, I'm with you. If you want to complain about smart meters, it can show ill health effects, I'm with you. If you want to complain about them and say that they invade your privacy, I'm listening. If you want to complain about them and say using technology replaced jobs, and meter reader jobs were great, and we think we got to keep the meter readers because the old meters because we need meter readers to read them, and that's going to increase your cost as a customer of Modesto Irrigation District, I'm not with you. I'll tell you, Larry, you're right, we disagree. If you want to tell me that we need more union employees at the district reading meters that can be replaced by technology when the technology is accurate, safe, and ensures your privacy, I will not be with that. We've got to cut staff. We've got to adopt technology. We've got to be efficient at that district. And I'll tell you, that's where the Republican comes in. Now, I know Republicans sometimes need Democrats to make them look good. But it always works. I'm endorsed by the Republican Party. I'm endorsed by most of the leading Republicans in this county. I'm proud of that. I'm also endorsed by many leading business people and farmers. I'm proud of that. I've been very active in the political front. I've been very active in politics. I've been a very strong advocate for farming. And I am the guy you need in there with your conservative principles from the Tea Party to go in there and fight for you and not be conflicted in any of my views or any of my interests when it comes to getting this district in order. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate what you do for us tonight, and I appreciate what you come and do for us twice a month. We need you.
Thank you guys tonight. Thank you for those comments, John. I think that was the only thing we ever differed in. But anyway, Larry Byrd, John mentioned in his opening statement tonight, experience, discipline, and passion. John should have put those 3 words on my sign. Larry Byrd has 40 and a half years experience at M.I.D. Larry Byrd is disciplined. I built a cattle operation with no help. not from my family, from my wife. One of the largest in eastern Stanislaus County, and an almond orchard business with our own two hands while I worked at M.I.D. and she worked in the canneries at night. We were a working family. While my buddies were skiing and fishing, we were working. That's discipline. Not only discipline, we're debt free. I don't even own a car payment. We did this. That's where we met goals. And we did it on our own. Not from family, not from a Republican Party, not from anybody. Another thing, I'm not politically motivated, everybody. I could care less about being a politician or political aspirations. That don't get it in today's world. You know where politics has got us. You guys all know where it's got us. We're in a mess. And we're in a mess at M.I.D. If you're thinking politics is going to carry over at M.I.D. and help them, it's surely not going to do it. They need a blue-collar guy like Larry Byrd who cares about his community, who cares about you, who cares about his grandchildren. That's who you need in there. A person that's going to fight the system. Hey, I might end up standing alone. But I had a board member the other day say, you need to be a team member. And I says, I am going to be a team member. I'm starting the team, and they're going to come over to my team. That's how the team member thing is going to work. And then we can get it done. And that's a promise to you. Thank you this evening.
I love the flag as much as anybody in this room. I'm going to slide it right here because we have problems nationally. We're all working on them. We have problems statewide. We're all working on those. Our county doesn't look too good. Our schools don't look too good. Our cities don't look good. We're all on the bottom. But M.I.D., we have a spot right now. We can go onward and upward. We're very sound. And our banker came in and said, you guys have had a pretty good year. Looks like you're going the right direction. Our bond, we reevaluated some of our bonds. We repriced some bonds. We went from 4% down to about 2.5%. Saved a couple million a year. We're in the right direction. We're a sound district, and we're going to just move on. And you're going to be surprised in the next 5 years. We're going to really look good because we've got the basis there. We've got the rock base.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for this opportunity. It's been enlightening.
Wow.
Well, you know, it's good. It's always good to see people who are interested in what's going on in their community, and that's why I'm running for the M.I.D. board. It's our community, and I tell everyone, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican or whatever. If we have an issue, tell me why you think the way you do, and then I'll hear the other side of it, and then we have to figure out what's best for all of us. And that's kind of the philosophy I'm bringing to this. It's time for someone to sit there and listen, honestly listen, and see what the public wants, because it's our district, it's our entity. We need to make sure that we run it the right way, the smart way. We've all seen what's happened. Over the last 10, 15, 20 years, everything just seems to be going up and up and up and up. And they're making mistakes, one after the other. We got $1 million after $1 million mistakes being made. And those things need to change. It's time for somebody to step in there, talk to the staff, talk to the people that work for the district, and see what we can do to better it. It's time for somebody to actually be involved with what's going on in technology, in the infrastructure. If we had this infrastructure problem, which is what they're saying, because that's why we need to sell the water to San Francisco, we need to fix the infrastructure. That doesn't just happen overnight. The foresight was there years ago to start this district. That foresight needs to be there now. And we have to, if you know you're going to need $1 million to fix a canal or a ditch or whatever, you've got to start thinking about that beforehand. You can't say all of a sudden, here we go, let's do this. I've got the endorsement of the Modesto Bee. I've got the endorsement of Farm Bureau. I've got the Republican Party. You know what? But that's where I say I'm willing to listen to people, and hopefully I can make positive changes for the M.I.D. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, your M.I.D. board member candidates.